everyone, Meine here, and today I actually want to talk to you guys about something that I get questioned about a lot from a lot of guys. That is how to find fish, particularly bass. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to find bass, but a lot of these same basic principles can actually be applied towards finding pretty much any species of fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just take you through the process that I take when I'm approaching a new body of water that I haven't fished before, or even a body of water that I have fished before. I basically take the same preparations for whether I've approached a lake before or not. So first, let's talk about the preparation that I take. Let me just take you a little bit through some of those preparations. Now, what I've done is, for the purposes of this video, is I've basically set it up to where I'm pretending like I'm going to be fishing a tournament, or I'm just going to be going out and fishing on Lake Mead in Nevada for the day. And we're going to say that it's fall time, kind of, it's actually, I decided I was going to fish in December in Mead, but that's almost like, kind of the fall time. So that's kind of how I approach this. So I'm just going to take you through the steps that I take, if I were fishing it around then. So one of the first things that I do is I start doing some research. I feel like a huge portion of my success when it comes to finding fish on a body of water comes before I ever even come out on the lake. Before I ever go down a lake, I've actually eliminated a lot of water that I'm going to fish. And so the preparation, beforehand is huge. So I start doing some research. One of the first places that I go when I'm doing my research is, nowadays I go to bassgold.com. Bassgold.com has got the results of several hundreds of tournaments nationwide. You can look at, and so you can generate basically a report that shows you all the tournament results during a given time period on a specific body of water. There's different ways you can do it. You can kind of research that yourself, but I go to bassgold.com to start looking up some general information about what I can expect on that body of water at that time of the year. I can, what types of places that I need to be looking for on a map. As well as, I start looking for, what it says, should be the primary patterns with lures and techniques and such. Bassgold.com has got such a wealth of information that it's a really good starting place that I go to. Another place that I search is I just Google and I look for fishing reports for that body of water during the time period that I'm looking. So I Googled looking for Lake Mead fishing reports for December. And as I'm doing that, I'm looking for patterns that start to emerge. Like if I'm starting to notice, that I'm hearing about crankbaits a lot, or if I'm hearing about fishing points a lot, as I'm looking through all this information, as I'm sifting through it, I look for things, patterns that start to emerge of things that I see a lot. And I keep those things in mind. Oftentimes I write those things down and make notes of them. I also look for patterns in locations as well. If I hear a certain area of the lake that get mentions quite a bit. For instance, as I research Lake Mead, I hear a lot about the Overton arm on Lake Mead. There's a lot of tournaments that are won out of that arm throughout the year, really. And I actually lived in Nevada for just a little while, just a few months, and fished Lake Mead just a couple times. And I heard a lot about the Overton arm, and so I know that the Overton arm is a good place to look and a good place to start. And I want to make sure and spend some good time there. So once I've done my research online, and I've kind of sifted through that information, and I've found those general patterns of the sorts of things that I want to look for when I'm looking at a map, that's when I'll break out my topographical map. So when I look at the map, I'm basically looking for those patterns that started to emerge while I was doing my research online. Like for instance, if I'm looking for main lake points or even secondary points, or if I'm looking for creek channels, the backs of creek arms, things like that. And so then I start looking for those kind of patterns to emerge. So let me go ahead and show you here on this map what some of the things that I pinpointed and some of the things that kind of came up in my research. Alright, so this is our map here, and right now I'm focused on the Overton arm. Like I said, as I did my research, I found a lot of information pointing me towards I need to check out this Overton arm. Now Lake Mead is a huge lake, and the Overton arm is a pretty big arm of the lake, so I can actually spend quite a bit of time in there looking around. So some of the things that came up while I was looking was I noticed it mentioned fishing points quite a bit, and so if you notice, I've actually got some little green dots that I made on the map next to some points here with just a marker. And one of the other things that it talked about was fishing in the backs of the creek arms as well. And so if we go up the arm of the lake here, we kind of come up towards the top of the Overton arm. But I also noticed, as I'm doing my research, that Lake Mead is actually about 100 plus feet low right now. And so all of this stuff right up in here is actually going to be high and dry. And according to this topographical map, when I start looking at where that 100-foot level is, it starts coming in right about in here, and you can see I've made a few green dots there. Those green dots are pretty much where I suspect about as far as I'm going to be able to go up in that Overton arm, and that's where those creek channels are. And so I want to make sure and run up as far as I can into the back there. That's a pretty typical fall time pattern for the fish to move towards the backs of the creeks as they're chasing shad and so forth. So I've got a few marks made up in there as well. And so as you see, what I've done is I've just gone around and marked my map with a few of those green dots of areas that I want to check out. And like I said, since the Overton arm is such a big arm of the lake, I can spend quite a bit of time in there kind of bouncing around. So the other part that I do a lot of preparation with, other than the location stuff, is with my lures and baits and rods and getting that all rigged up and set and ready to go. I want to make sure that I've got everything rigged and ready to go before I get out on the water, so I don't have to spend a lot of time doing that. And so what I rig this stuff up with is a lot of the stuff that through my research and whatnot, was stuff that stood out and stuff that those patterns that kept emerging that I would notice. So in my research for Lake Mead at this time of the year in December or whatever, I found a few things that stood out. Was a crankbait, as well as spinner bait, even topwater lures, and another thing that it didn't really mention this, but it talked a little bit about swim baits and stuff, and so one thing that comes to mind is an Alabama rig. That's fairly new and hasn't, so we don't have a lot of history and stuff on that yet and online and whatnot. But I think an Alabama rig, should be pretty awesome. I'm going to think about, the water clarity and stuff like that. I'm going to look at some fishing reports, kind of get an idea of what, they're saying the water clarity should be like, and I'm going to pick my colors and whatnot according to what those reports have said. And so I want to make sure and have a wide array of rods rigged up with a wide array of techniques. I'll have those ones, the rods that I suspect to work and those baits that I suspect to work kind of at the top of my list, and then kind of start working my way down.